My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome back, everybody. Eli here, and today on Meet Cool People, I've got a new friend. The funny thing is that we've been connected for probably a year or two, if not longer, but we never actually had a chance to meet in person, and this is Buddy Broyles. He is the owner and podcast host of Blue Mike Studios, a professional podcast and video production studio focused on helping small business owners, brands, and community leaders share their stories with clarity and impact. He is in the DFW area, has some really, really cool studio space here. And he offers in-studio podcast production, remote podcast hosting, production, all the stuff that goes along with having your own show. So with that said, Buddy, it is a pleasure to have you hang out with me today.
It's great to be here, Eli. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because I was saying that you and I have been in the same space. Like we were connected on LinkedIn easily a year, if not 2 years ago. And we just never made that connection. And then we just recently actually met at a podcast group and got to actually hang out. And I was like, yeah, this guy is kind of cool. We should hang out more often. So.
Yeah, likewise. And I told you, I've been following your stuff for a while, and you're one of the people that are clearly doing things right. So I had to admire that and point that out to you, Eli. I was like, he's got his stuff together. I really like what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. I fake it very well.
Yeah. Good.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about, how did you get into the podcast production world?
That's a great question. So I run another business called Visual Learning Solutions. So for years, since 2015, we've been creating video-based training for corporations. And I'm talking Pizza Hut, 7-Eleven, Baylor. And in 2018, 2019, I got a wild hair and decided, hey, we have this studio, green screen, multicam setup. I have a production crew. Why don't we start a live LinkedIn podcast? And in my history, Eli, I've been a media producer for 35 years. I've worked live news. I did some CBS 11 stuff, not on camera. I was behind the scenes, editor, producer, those types of things. But I had comfort, I guess you could say, with live. Right. And so we produced 30 episodes. It was called Motivated Learning, and it's available on YouTube. You can find it. Okay. And the goal, Eli, was lead generation. I wanted to reach out to companies and invite them on the show and recognize them for the things I see they're doing well. Mm-hmm. And people will ignore your phone calls. They won't necessarily go to coffee with you, but if you have an established podcast and you send a complimentary invite, most of them will join. And I got a couple of really good deals out of those 30 podcasts that I produced. And then I shelved it for a little while. And then a few years back, I started up again and mentioned in a Chamber of Commerce, I wasn't even a podcast business, but mentioned toward the end of my 30-second, and it's always real tight when you have to give your 30.
Yep.
And I happened to mention for smaller businesses, like some of those in the room, and this was at the Allen Chamber. I remember it well.
Okay.
I produce webcasts and podcasts, and it piqued someone's ears. And they came up to me afterwards and said, hey, have you thought of XYZ? And then within 6 months, Blue Mike Studios was born. We have a studio at the Cattle Office Reimagined. They have 10 locations in DFW.
There's
we have a studio in one of their
from
locations. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they're terrific. And I produced their show called the Cattle Convos. So I went all in on the Blue Mike Studios and podcasting a couple of years ago, and I have hundreds of episodes under multiple brands now. And I produce other companies, small groups. I produce their podcasts as well. Mm-hmm. So I want to say it was by accident, but the things I did were intentional. It just kept stacking. You know, when you enjoy something and you accidentally are good at it, or at least by your measure, things happen. So, like you, I mean, and I enjoy it. I enjoy these conversations we get to have through podcasting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great opportunity to have cool conversations with people that you may not get in front of otherwise. I mean, anybody who follows me, they've heard the story. I started my first podcast in 2012. And the funny thing is I had an e-show before that. It was in 2010. Nowadays we call that a YouTube channel, but back then that was a big deal. And, when we got like 30 listeners in the first 2 weeks, and we're like, where did these people come from? We have no clue. It was pretty cool. But I that was one of the things about having a podcast that I always thought was so cool. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's gotten kind of beat up now, but I mean, it's just a great opportunity to get in front of those people that you couldn't talk to otherwise,
Yes.
that especially are your prospects.
Yes.
And, for me, I found this out the is like I stumbled across it. I had the podcast. So I was like, this whole podcasting thing sounds kind of cool. I think I want to do a podcast. No clue what the hell I was doing. And I ended up getting on there, and I had people that I knew through the internet marketing space that were friends, and some people that hadn't been friends yet. And I'm like, hey, I got a podcast. You want to come hang out? And everybody was like, absolutely. So I started interviewing people and having a lot of fun with it. And next thing I know, I was having people like after we're done to like turn off the recording. I'm like, so, this was awesome. I'll let you know when it goes live, blah, 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 all the typical stuff. And I'm like, so what do you need help with? What can I do to help you out? And they're like, you know what I really need? And you may or may not know this term. They're like, I need somebody who's really great with Infusionsoft. Now, do you know those
Oh,
guys? So,
no, I do not.
okay. So they're known as Keep now, but they were the first real big CRM. Like all the big boys with CRMs now,
Mhm.
their whole frameworks and methodology got started from Keep. Unfortunately, Keep made a bunch of stupid questions or stupid things too, and they've gone downhill drastically. But back then, originally they were Infusionsoft, which we started working with them back in 2007,
Wow.
and so it was a CRM, but it was like night and day different than anything else. It was a CRM designed for marketers, which had
Yes.
never really existed before. Um, any CRM that uses the terms tagging for their prospects,
Mhm.
that didn't exist until Infusionsoft built it.
Oh,
To
wow.
give you an idea with that, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's
but I had
ubiquitous now.
people, yeah, now everybody does it. But
Yep.
they were like, if you really know somebody who does Infusionsoft, that's what I really need. And I'm like, well, I happen to live somebody who's probably in the top 5% of the world. They're like, really? Like, yep. So and I ended up getting clients from that. And we had
Yes.
a whole division of done for you CRM build out stuff that we were doing behind the scenes. That was not my main business. I did not advertise it, but I got those clients purely from those podcast conversations. And I wasn't pitching anything.
Right.
And I was like,
Just conversations.
yeah, I
Yep.
was just having conversations. And I'm like, okay, this is an untapped market. And so now we tell people a podcast is a great way to use it as a lead generation piece. And it just amazes me.
Absolutely. You and I are both now, especially you. You have to be associated now, Eli, with it's got to be what 50,000 pieces of media out
Hmm.
there. And if you're like me, I don't believe there's another Buddy B. Broyles out there. My middle name is Bruce, but on
Right.
LinkedIn, I'm Buddy B. Broyles.
Hmm.
And so if you're looking to find me, you're going to find me on so much media
Right.
that is best case scenario, not someone's dog that they had to put down. It's like I share a name with a
Right.
lot of dog obituaries, but other
Right.
than that, it's a lot of business
Hmm.
podcasts and reels and all the things that are being elevated
Right.
on AI and the AIO or whatever they're calling it now,
Hmm.
and of course SEO since the dawn of Google, right?
Right.
Or even before that, probably back in the
Oh yeah,
radio
definitely
days.
before that. I was doing
Yeah,
SEO before Google existed. Much
great.
easier times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
that's the value is creating authentic media that
Mhm.
people can find and learn about you rather than, especially now, all of this what we're calling it slop, the AI slop. It's
Right.
so there's so much of that now. And for someone with your time in podcasting, I mean, talk about authentic. You're OG podcaster back. You're close to when the iPod was invented. And I believe that's what podcasting came from.
Yeah, most people don't even know that. That's cool that you brought that up, because I've actually talked to other podcast people before and they didn't even know that. So, for anybody, just to clarify, for anybody who doesn't know, the whole term podcast was invented because of the iPod, which was the first popular, wasn't the first one. I think Sony created the first MP3 player. But
Yeah,
if you're old enough to remember the iPod, the big brick that you carried around with you, and it
so
would
heavy.
hold like 60 gigs of data, and you could beat somebody with it if you needed to.
Yeah, 1,000 songs or 10,000 songs they advertised,
It
something
was
like that.
10,000
Yeah,
songs,
yeah.
yeah. And I loved mine. I was so bummed when it died on me,
Yeah.
because there is a company that's actually basically doing a clone knockoff now that's actually pretty cool looking.
You're telling me you didn't have a Zune?
I did have a Zune, actually. I had the Zune before the iPod
Yeah.
because I was broke at that time and
Yes,
I needed
yes.
to go with the Zune.
The
So
poor man's
yes,
iPod. Yes.
yep, I had one of those and I love that thing too.
Sure, sure.
But that's where the
Portable.
podcast came from.
Yes.
And then, nowadays, and people have a YouTube channel, they call it a podcast. So it's
Yeah.
like the language has been kind of like really watered down, but the capabilities to get out there and from both as a host and a guest. For me, I do
Yeah.
a ton of guesting and I love doing it. It's so much fun. For the longest time after my previous podcast, when I put it on hold, I was like, yeah, I think I'm just going to guest for a while. I just don't want to work that hard. And I did it for years. And people are like, when are you going to do a new podcast or bring back your old one or something? I'm like, right now I'm having too much fun just showing up, looking pretty and not having to do all the work,
Right.
And I did that for a long time. And then I eventually brought this show out, which is
Mhm.
now, as of the week that we're recording this, I just put out episode 139. So
That's terrific.
yeah,
Bravo.
so and it's fun to get to share all these things because it's like I have a history with all this stuff. But if somebody's like from your experience, if somebody's considering starting a podcast, what are some of the first things that they need to keep in mind they should be thinking about before they
Yes.
invest in any equipment or hire somebody like you or anything like that? What are some of the things that they need to be thinking about first?
Well, you'd mentioned something interesting is podcast to me, and I'm a video professional first. Audio has always been secondary, equally important. But podcasting to me is especially now, you have to think video. So if you're not doing a video podcast, you're really missing most of the market of what's literally visible out there. So I tell them first, if we're going to do a podcast, let's do a video component, some type of video component, even if it's just the wide shot. I avoid that. I'm kind of a stickler because we have a studio. I really want it to be as elevated as possible. But second, you are not going to go viral. You're probably not going to get customers immediately, and you're not going to get thousands and thousands of views or followers or any of that. You have to be doing it as part of your overall get out the word marketing strategy. And ideally, companies like mine, we're not even a marketing company, Eli. We're a media company. So we like to team up with marketing companies and best case scenario, people who are thinking about a podcast, say they're in business, say they're an attorney or something like that. They all already probably have some type of marketing capability. Maybe they have someone doing their Google ads or something like that. I want to have a conversation with both the business owner or the leader and whatever person that wears the marketing hat in their firm and have that conversation, but make sure that they're doing it for the right reason. And the right reason is authenticity
Right.
and SEO, AIO, getting
Right.
your message out there 24/7 that's actually you having great conversations. And you're really smart about this, Eli, because being a guest on someone else's podcast elevates you immediately because
Hmm.
someone wanted to know what you have to say.
Right.
So already you're that much more important than
Right.
just hosting your own directly to camera, right?
Yeah.
And so now that you're perceived as an expert, as a
Hmm.
person of knowledge, because someone else had questions for you. So
Right.
I tell them do these things, but let's not have any misconception of what podcasting is. Podcasting is a 24-hour salesperson for you. It's a lead generator. Don't expect to be the next insert whatever your favorite podcaster is here.
Right.
Will that
And
come with
it's
time? Maybe. That's up to you, really.
and sometimes it can, and sometimes
Yes.
like you'll get one episode that just blows up. And as a guest, like I coach people on how to be great guests because so many
Yes.
people suck as guests. And
Yes.
I get people that come to me, I want to get on a podcast. I'm like, okay, we need to talk first to make sure you do it right. Because if you're a bad guest, you ain't gonna get invited to other ones. And so
No.
I
Your
always
show may
tell,
never air at all,
yeah,
actually.
absolutely. And
I
I've
have
had
some that
that.
have not aired because they've been
Mhm.
so difficult to even edit
Yeah,
because they didn't know their brand
yeah.
or what to say. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's
Yeah.
that's what I try to help people with. I don't even really advertise that too much, but it is something that I've
It's
helped
truth.
clients with
Yes.
because I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that you are rock solid getting on that show because you own the show.
Mhm.
You may go into a host who's brand new and really doesn't have a whole lot of experience, and you still want to make that an excellent show. And if you do it
Yes.
right, they will love you for it. And so that's what I try to help them with. And you said something I think is really important. And I pitch this all the time, but people have a hard time thinking about it, is that you having a show like your own podcast, you're probably not going to go viral. And I think that that's one of the things people think, that that's what's going to happen when they launch their show. And I'm like, would you don't need 10,000 people or 100,000 people to watch the episode. Yeah, if it happens, that's awesome. But what you need is 50 people who are truly interested, and one or two of them to reach out to you and go, okay, I like your stuff. I think I need your help. Because
Precisely.
if you got more than that, you'd probably drown.
Yes.
So
Especially quickly. Yes. You
exactly.
don't want to
Yeah,
go viral out of the gate. You're not ready. You're not ready for
exactly.
even 100 or 150 people engaging with you.
Yeah,
I ideally, like you said, the number is 50. If you get
right.
50 people watching that episode, and even a few percent
Hmm.
engaging or
Yeah,
liking your services, or you're in great shape.
yeah.
Especially for some of the smaller businesses, smaller podcasts that have that's exactly what they need.
Hmm. Well, and you deal with a lot more local type businesses too,
Yes.
which in that case, that is that smaller audience.
Yes.
We're not looking for, the internet marketer who's trying to drive 10,000 people to their website in a day. We're
Correct.
looking for people that want people to walk in the door. Well, it's not going to do any good for somebody across the country to listen to your show from you as a client standpoint,
Yes.
because they ain't going to come by from you.
Yep.
They might appreciate it, and if you can help them that way, that's awesome. But you have to just kind of keep those things in mind.
And I have an example for you, the Lease It or List It podcast. I'm the producer. You never see me or hear me,
Mhm.
but it's Savannah Dunn and Glenn Krutzinger. And what's special about their show, and it's a play on the Love It or List It,
Mhm.
whatever,
Yeah.
but it's uh, Lease It or List It. And Glenn is a property management company.
Okay.
He's a franchise, and Savannah is a realtor. And they
Mhm.
talk about basically whatever people are typing into search for, those are their show topics. And they
Right.
release a weekly show from our studio, but they are absolutely hyper local. They
Right.
just want the North Dallas area, not much beyond that, because then they have to drive further to help those clients. So we're
Yeah.
really targeting just this very limited area. And that's their best case scenario, is a few more people reach out to them per month because they got to know them through their discussions in their podcast. And these are just
Right.
20-minute shows. They can be
Yeah.
less, but they need to be specifically about just a handful of topics that are search friendly,
Mhm.
and very limited, I mean, happily limited audience.
Right. So, and that actually brings me to another question. And actually, I've got a couple of them, but we'll try to take them one piece at a time here.
Of course.
You're talking about the length. How, like, for me, I generally shoot for 30 minutes roughly. For a little short, that's fine. If we go long, usually that just means we're having a great conversation. But people are like, okay, what is the right length? Like, some people are going for it. We're gonna have an hour long show. You got people like Joe Rogan has like 3 hour shows.
Right. Completely. I mean, he's an outlier. Andrew
Yeah,
Huberman, outlier.
yeah.
They're very, very long shows, but
Hmm.
they're established. Their guests are
Right.
usually high level experts. I tell people, to answer your question, Eli, is I shoot for 20-ish minutes. I
Okay.
think drive time in the DFW area. Sometimes it's longer if we don't want it to
I
be.
was I was gonna say you could get away with a 2 hour episode for that.
You sometimes, but that's the last thing I want to do, is be the podcast they're listening to while they're having the worst day.
I
I don't want to be
understand.
associated with
Right.
whatever's going through their mind at that time. But also, there's a lot that happens in a podcast after you hit the stop record button,
Hmm.
and that's editorial, distribution, and so on, and all the SEO stuff we keep talking about. The shorter these can be, obviously 20 minutes, any less than that, again, drive time, right?
Right.
But you can squeeze about 15 to 20 reels out of a 20-minute show easily.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that helps you produce more content. If you go, some of these, especially some of the shows I produce, if you're going that long, we need to split it up into multiple episodes. One,
Right.
because we watch our metrics on YouTube, and you'll see they're playing along and drop.
Right.
And that's usually, you lose them after a period of time. Most people just don't have that much time, or there's enough subject matter in there that it really should have been more focused into a
Hmm.
separate episode. So that's what
Yeah.
we target, is about 20 minutes. Now, you're right. when we have a great guest, super knowledgeable, very engaging, great conversation, enjoyable, energy filled conversation, well, yes, we're going to go. And then if we can break it up into multiple episodes, or we just let the audience know, and you and I are both producers, I may come on in the beginning and say, hey, everybody, this is a longer episode, but stick around because it's
Right.
really good. It's worth your time. Commit to it. Right.
Yeah.
So just make it known that that's
Yeah.
going to happen. But
Yeah.
again, going back roughly 20 minutes, I feel
Okay.
for a business podcast is
Right.
optimal. There are variables like anything
Yeah.
else.
No, and I totally agree with that. And I think that's a great way to think about it. Like a 20-minute episode is great now. I mean, I see some people that are even doing, 8-minute episodes or 5-minute episodes, which to me I have a hard time with that. I think this is too short. But I know some of these guys, they're doing a podcast every day, which
Yeah.
is way more work than I want to do. That's for sure.
Agreed.
But but you also brought up something really important with this, which is talking about how you take that content and you create reels and things like that out of it. Now, obviously, I repurpose most of my content. The funny thing is, the reels are the least that I do. I come up with a ton of other stuff that I
Yes.
get out of it that I don't even have to do the reels, because the video editing is not my favorite part. But I can do it. I just don't like to.
It's a lot of
But
work.
it
Yeah.
is a lot of work. Yeah.
Mm.
But, that's the thing that I always tell people is like, don't think of your podcast, whether it's a guest or your own show, don't think of it as the show. Think of it as all the other things you can get out of it. And I even created a course that is literally, I show the whole process of where I take a 30-minute interview and turn it into 28 different pieces of content.
Fantastic.
And
That's
and
what I've
it's
observed about you. Yeah.
yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I have fun with it.
Yeah,
But
you're doing that well.
that's where people need to see the value of podcasts. And if you can turn around and think about it as like, okay, you get the show, but you might get a show who does only get, 5, 10 listeners. And that's cool. If you get somebody who's the right fit, that's awesome. But the real advantage is, number one, posting and sharing that you were on the show,
Yes. Amen.
because that's credibility. Yeah, it's just like
Mhm.
you said earlier. But
Yep.
then repurposing that into multiple, write some long form posts, short form posts, create some graphics, create some quote cards, as I call them, all the other things you can do. And now it just keeps reusing again and again and again. And you get a couple of those under your belt, you've got 3, 4 months worth of content ready to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much to be used in one show. And also, I mean, you do this really well, is you can have just a graphic with a quote,
Mm-hmm.
just a really important quote that was said. Every platform out there, social media platform, will accept some piece of media from one podcast.
Right.
Instagram, Pinterest, even you can
Mhm.
you can create something for that. So it's really underutilized by a lot of businesses
Yeah.
that are afraid of what am I going to talk about? And that's the easiest question for me to answer,
Right.
because there's your business. You're going to talk
Mhm.
about your business.
Yeah. Well, and so that's something that, like, if you have a guest that's coming in and they're really like, I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about. How do you coach them to feel more comfortable with that if this is like their first show?
Well, I host a couple shows, Eli, as you do,
Mhm.
and my Growing Your Business podcast, I send them the questions, and it's pretty basic.
Okay.
Right out of the gate, we're trying to establish why the listener is listening, what's in it
Hmm.
for them. So,
Right.
what sets you apart as your business, and then from there, we follow. Tell me a little bit about your journey into the business that you're in. Let's talk about the products. Everybody
Hmm.
loves a story. Tell us a story about one of your customers, clients, whatever, right? And then from there, we follow the bouncing ball. They're all questions they know the answer to.
Right.
But when I produce other people's content, we're in the age of AI. And if you're not using AI as a tool now, don't use it. This is very important. Don't use it to replace yourself. The last
Yes.
thing I ever want to see is a fake Eli talking to me. Take the
Mhm.
time to make the content, or don't do it, because you'll discredit yourself. But what
Right.
I tell them, if they're looking for something to talk about and we're putting together, let's say a series of 12 shows, what I say is, let's hop into ChatGPT. Let's write up a little bit about who you are as your business, and then point ChatGPT to your website and
Mhm.
5 competitors, and say, write a 12 podcast episode about 20 minutes long with
Mhm.
a few subtopics about the subjects that are covered on all of these websites that customers are looking for.
Okay.
And within 5 seconds,
Yeah.
ChatGPT, now you don't have that question anymore of what we're going to talk about. You'll be surprised at how
Right.
much you need to talk about, because
Yeah.
that's what people are looking for.
And I've
And
always told,
that's a free giveaway, folks. That's
yeah,
something we used to hide behind the curtain, but I mean, it's Claude. All these things they're out there now. So
yeah.
if there's no point in hiding that from you,
Right. And
it's very useful.
I always tell people that AI is great for the brainstorming side. If you're that
Absolutely.
stuck, it's like, I don't know what to talk about. That's where you can ask it. And like as a guest, one of the great things that I'll do is I'll tell people, I'm like, or when I'm working with clients, I'm like, okay, now just like you said, it's like, okay, this is me, this is my client, this is what we're looking for. Give me 10 questions that you as a client would be wanting answers to, and let it come back with that stuff. And
Yes.
I'll say 30, because out of the 30 I'll get 10 good ones.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, oh well, I can talk about this and this and this and this, and now we have that short list. But I'm not having it write the answers, I'm just
Yeah.
having it get the question, and then that gives me more content. And I do that with my clients, and they're like, oh, that's a really good question. Or they'll come up with that one, that's a really easy answer, but I didn't even think about that being a question. Yeah, nobody else would really think about that.
Right.
That's why we do it. Yeah.
Right.
No, I
And
love that.
another question you probably get, and I get, Eli, it's in the same vein, is what happens when we've talked through all of these, right? So do
Mhm.
we stop recording podcasts at that point? And I'm like, no,
No.
mix and match,
Yep.
shuffle the deck,
Mhm.
because if anything, the internet loves is more of the same type of stuff spoken
Yes.
differently at a different time, in a different context, possibly with different people.
Yeah.
But you'll see a lot of these same podcasters out there that are selling something or a system. Tony Robbins doesn't just put one idea out there one time. You will see
Yes.
his stuff the same, some very
100 different
similar,
ways.
not exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, in different
Yep.
ways, and it'll
Yep.
be over years and years of time. So yeah, we're going to say it again, but just slightly different context, recorded in a different time, different day with a different guest.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and and even like if it's your own stuff, like say you're doing a solo show, one of the things that I've always said is, you look at like 3 or 4 different angles, and when I'm creating content, I'm brainstorming my ideas. I'll take one topic and I'm like, okay, we have 5 different angles we can hit with this.
Yeah.
And then that's 5 different episodes. And I'm like, okay, I can tell this story here. I can tell this story here. I cannot tell a story, but I can have it a exercise that somebody can do on this one. And it's all the same basic thing, but we just come at it from a different thing. So it's not word for word the same. And
Yeah.
oh, yeah, by the way, most people don't remember in 3 months anyway. So they're going to go, oh, you know what? I heard that once before. That's really good. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, that was me 5 episodes ago,
So let me
but
say it again.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the cool thing about it. And that brings me to another question that I had with this. Um, how do you feel about the difference of like if somebody's not sure about whether they should have a show with guests or if they should have a show that's a solo show or a mix, or what does that look like?
Well, unless you are highly capable to entertain yourself, meaning when you produce seriously, you have to
Mhm.
enjoy the sound of your own voice, to at least a little bit, to have your own show to a silent audience,
Mhm.
right? And that is a skill. It's a learned skill. You can be taught, you can learn it,
Right.
and you can do it well. But I look for people who want to be two people,
Yeah.
because then you have someone to bounce ideas off of. There's a chemical energy in the room. We
Mhm.
when we are together as two people, we feed off of each other's energy. If
Right.
someone smiles, nods, just says yeah, so that's some of the affirmation that happens in conversations. So I encourage people to, if you're not the solo person already, team up,
Yeah.
or, and what you and I do for our guests is we're happy to host them and have those conversations,
Mhm.
but don't go it alone unless it's already something you do
Yeah.
naturally. Some salespeople, coaches, authors, they're great at that and they should do that. But I definitely encourage them to find a partner. And I mentioned Glenn and Savannah earlier with Lisa or List It.
Mhm.
They are two sides of the same kind of business. And the benefit they get of their podcast is they're two different businesses funding the same podcast. So they
Got
get
it.
to split the costs. And I do encourage everybody, one of the best guests you can bring on if you're looking to have another person there is a customer.
Right.
Ask them how it went. Those make great podcasts, and they're not customer testimonials. They're just conversations. You're not
Hmm.
fishing for compliments. You're asking them to tell the truth. How did it go?
Hmm.
Let them tell the story for you. And synergy partners too, people you work with to help you
Right.
succeed in your business. Great guests. Don't go it alone unless it's just your calling.
Yeah.
And I like to think I'm pretty good at this, and I rarely go it alone. I hate staring at a teleprompter or just making it up on the spot. It's pretty dull in the studio by myself with an operator across the room. It's not
Yeah.
fun for me, and it probably doesn't come off as fun. I keep it short when I do, Eli.
Yeah.
Very short.
It's funny that you say that because like I do everything here by myself. I've self-produced literally in
Yep.
my spare bedroom essentially.
That's great.
And it works out well, but
Yeah.
that whole thing is like for me, the hardest part is to do a solo episode. And for the longest time, I didn't do any solo episodes until I had one time where literally in 1 week I had 3 guests all canceled. They had to reschedule,
Oh,
emergencies happened. And I'm
yes.
like, well, I don't have a choice and I made a commitment when I launched this one that I was going to do one episode every single week. And so I was like, okay, gonna do it. And I did it. And what was interesting, and I was very shocked by this, was actually that's one of my highest downloaded episodes.
How
And I
about
was
that?
like, yeah, I'm like, huh, okay, people actually like listening to me. Cool. So now I still don't do a whole lot of them, but if some life gets busy and I don't have a bunch of people guest the way they should, I might have a couple. When I launched the book back in April, that was one of the things that I was like, okay, if I don't have somebody, I'm going to talk about one of the virtues out of the book. And that has worked out really well, and I get more comfortable with it. But for me, even now, as many episodes as I put down, I still would much more prefer to do it with somebody else. And that's one of the reasons why I like guesting on other people's shows so
Yeah,
much.
that makes perfect sense. Like you
Yeah.
say, it takes the work out of it when you're a guest.
Hmm.
And one of the pieces of advice I give to people that I'm starting a podcast with, and something we do at Blue Mike Studios, is stay ahead of the wave. Meaning, before we launch a podcast, I'm about to launch a podcast called The Story, Start Today
Hmm.
or Repeat Yesterday. We're launching that in August, but we'll already have 5 episodes recorded and ready to go.
Right.
So that way, we're always a month ahead on weekly episodes. So I'm never in a situation where I have to just, I need to
Hmm.
come up with something, or
Yep.
find some cool people like yourself and say, hey, Eli, I'm kind of behind on episodes. Would you honor me by hopping on my show real quick so we can have a show this week? Just I try to remind people, don't put yourself, and God bless your editor. Don't put
Right.
them in a situation where they have to edit a show that night to get it on
Hmm.
the next morning, because
Right.
they really don't like that. I don't want to do that to anybody.
Yeah.
So that's one way to stay ahead of it, is just literally stay ahead. You get
Yeah.
ahead, stay ahead. And it's tough for new podcasts, because you and I both know this. As soon as you record a show, it's like, I got to get it out there. I want to see
Hmm.
what it's going to do. And it's like, patience,
Yeah.
you know, we can do more with
Yeah.
more.
Get a few under you. And
Yeah.
I remember, do you know John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Maybe, but not at the moment. I don't recall.
He's had the show for years. I don't know if he still does it or not because I haven't followed him for a while, but I know him from back in the day. And when he launched it, he was doing a podcast every day. And but what
Wow.
he did, I mean, the dude is a
Beast.
beast.
Yeah.
He recorded 8 episodes every Monday. And then he had the week to do all the production. And he was always ahead by one. That way, when he did take time off, he had a bank of them ready to
Yeah.
go. And it's
Wow.
always I always tell people it's like, and I can be a hit or miss on this depending on that because I'm really picky on who I let on the show. So if I just let anybody in, I'd had no problems. But I'm like, yeah, no, you're not cool enough.
I'll take that as a compliment that I'm
Yeah,
here.
you got the vibe, dude. No,
I
definitely.
passed.
Yes.
Great.
After our last conversation, I was like, yeah, I definitely want him on my show.
I'm grateful.
But I have, I'll go through and I'm like, let's do, 2 episodes a week recording, and then that way we can have that bank out. Now, I
Smart.
will say the smart thing, that the kicker with this though is, as for hosts, and I'll say this because they should need to know this, don't go too far out, because I
Yes.
know people that are like podcast crazy and they're recording massive numbers. And
Yep.
what ends up happening is like I get things where I'm a guest on their show and I forget that I was even on the show by the time it actually goes live.
Yeah, because it's 3 or 4 months later, and by
Yeah.
then I don't care to share it anymore. Not only as a guest, my story might have changed.
Yeah.
I might be wearing a different hat that month now. And that's literally old
Yep.
hat.
Yeah.
I'm a new hat now. So,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. Good
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah. No, I always find that one. Now, if you ever run short and you need a guest, always know I'm here for you, man.
You'll expect that call. It'll happen at some point, but I'm
That'd be
grateful
awesome.
for it.
Yeah. So as we're wrapping up, is there any like last bits of wisdom that you'd like to share with somebody who's thinking about doing a show?
Well, this is like any other part of your business. Do a benefit analysis, and look at and like the SWOT analysis too.
Hmm.
Look at what other businesses are doing, weigh its value to you, to your business, what it can do. And if other businesses in your area are doing it, well, then maybe it's necessary, because they're definitely going to be found ahead of you. If no one in your business is doing it, well, there's an opportunity,
Right.
right? But it isn't as expensive as you think. One, two, it's you and I can agree on this. It's kind of fun,
Yeah.
to tell your story and get to hear other people's stories.
Mhm.
And three, the internet's forever, and it's
Yeah.
24/7. If you're making media like this, you're authentic, you're present, you're repeatable, and people like to work with people they can get to know. And
Yes.
just a website or just a LinkedIn profile, it's really hard to get to know you. But when they hear your voice, they hear how you carry yourself, how you answer questions, how confident you are or are not. And you can work on that. Then they'll get to know you, and people will choose the lane. Either they're going to pick up the phone and call you and want to do business with you, or they're doing you an additional service. If they don't like something about you and they
Yep.
pre-selected not to do business with you, you don't get that call. Therefore, you don't have your time wasted with a customer who was not going to work with you, or they were just going to consume your time. So
Right.
a podcast is a way to pre-vet a lot of people. I'm not sure if that's a word. I think it is,
Yeah.
but we'll pretend. Sure, thank you. And
We'll
yep, check,
we'll go with it.
pass. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's really what it does. And in the age of new search engines, including Claude and some of these other AI, podcasts are elevated from what we
Mhm.
found. And a quick
Nice.
example before we sign off, I had one guest, Eli, who had been running a business for a little while, let's say a year, and searched himself in one of the AI search engines. In the only instance of his existence, he had a website, has a business, and the only instance was on my show.
Mm.
Period. And
Wow.
which was shocking for both of us. I was like,
Right.
we must be doing something right, but goodness, that's I'm not saying that's across the board, but that was interesting
Right.
to know. So
No,
it's
that's
it's
cool.
worth it's worth a try. Be a guest on someone's show like you and I are doing for each other.
Mhm.
And if it's not your thing, you know, do other things well.
Right. Yeah.
But I
And I
highly
and
recommend it.
totally and agree. And I you just said the last thing that I was gonna say is that if before you decide to jump in and do your own show, be a guest on a few other shows. Check it out.
Mhm.
I always
Yep.
tell people you should be a guest on at least 10 shows because then you can find out what works, what doesn't work. And you're going to get some people that are just really horrible hosts. So you know not to do that on your show. It's
Yes.
going to happen.
Yep.
And you'll learn a lot by being a guest first, and you get much more prepared for when you run your own show, and people will remember you for it.
Yeah.
And that's
Everybody
what you
listen to Eli. That's great advice. That's exactly right. Do that and you'll
yeah.
find success. Well
Awesome.
said.
Well, thank you. This has been awesome, my friend. We're going to wrap up. We got two final questions. The last one's the easy one, and that's going to be how do people get a hold of you? But before that, this is the Meet Cool People show, and I always ask every one of my guests, what do the words "meet cool people" mean to you?
Excellent. Well, first, how you find us is search Buddy B. Broyles on LinkedIn or other platforms, or search Blue Mike Studios on every platform, and you'll find us in some type of way to contact us. And meet cool people, it's really up to you to decide to be out there, have conversations with people, let the extrovert out. If you're introverted, meet a few people, go to some of these networking events, because you're going to find your people. And that's what I like about podcasting is it helps your people find you. But there's always something that you can find within another person, at least 80% that you can agree on. And we need people. We've always gathered around the campfire and had conversations. And the only way to do that is to get out, find people, and even if you're not cool by your own definition, you're going to find other, by your definition, not cool people, but together you could be cool. and work on that. But that's what it means to me, is just take the time to put yourself out there and grow personally, but also make media about it. Get that out there, get seen, get heard, be somebody, but just not this buddy. I'm the only one of me.
Awesome. I love it, my friend. Well, this was very cool. Really appreciate you coming and hanging out today. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
For everybody else out there, get out there, have an awesome week. If there's anything we do to help you out, reach out and let us know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Now, if you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rock star.